just love that intro, guys. Man, what a beautiful day. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see so many people already here. It went from 0 to 19 people immediately, so that's a good sign. Let's see who we got here. I see Jabs. We got Mohammed. We got El Chino, Cassandra, Jovanka, Al, man, we got some people in here. We got Ryan. Walk the first one today. Oh man, I'd love to hear that, man. You should post about it in the group. Tell people how it went. I think a lot of people will get a lot of value out of it. We got Renville. Oh, I totally butchered your name. I'm sorry, Renville. We got Rob. We got, and I am totally going to butcher that name. Tuwadi. Peter, Margie's in the house. We got Margie, Larry. Man, good to see you guys. I love it. I love it. So obviously we've got a popular topic. I know we've got a few people that have actually been requesting this very topic here, and it's super valuable, guys. And honestly, I think I'll be able to give a lot of value today, but you're truly going to learn this skill by going and doing it and just getting in person on these properties and seeing what there is to see. And that's where most of your questions are going to come from prior experiences. I see Ryan says internet backup. Yeah, actually, about an hour ago is when we got our internet back. What a joke. So, and I might lose you guys. They said it's going to be pretty spotty. So if I lose y'all, just hang tight. I'll do my best to get back up. I'll put it on my phone if I have to, but just be prepared. So, how to do a property walkthrough before and during, right? Before, let's start there because that's where we should always start. Before, it goes back to your underwriting, right? And I know I've said this multiple times before, and I'll say it again. It's all in the T12s. Pretty much everything that you're going to be asking is mostly from the T12, and it's based on questions that you have while you're looking at the T12. So let's start with this. In your property walkthrough, typically it's going to be you and whoever your team is, whoever is on your team that's going to be walking the property, as well as the broker. Usually the broker is always there, and then the property manager. Now, sometimes the property manager is not there. More often than not, though, they will be there. And a lot of these questions will be asked to the property manager because they're the ones that are there daily. They're the ones seeing this stuff in person. Now, most of the questions from the T12, that will go towards your broker. So, Joel, love in the background. Yeah, man, I keep it there for a reason. So, when you're doing your underwriting first, right? Your main goal, I've said it before, is you're looking for fluctuations in the numbers, right? You're looking for the numbers to kind of tell you a story. For example, if you're looking at, let's say the water bill, right? We're looking at the water bill and it's consistent throughout the entire time. And then you see in April, the water bill for that month goes up 10, 15,000. Like, wow, okay, here's a huge fluctuation. It's not consistent now. I see 10 to 15,000 increase in expenses. What happened there? To me, that sounds like, okay, maybe there was a leak that someone didn't know about. And maybe the property flooded and there was a huge amount of wasted water, right? That's just one thing that comes to mind. Those are different things that you're looking for. Those are questions you want to ask. So let's translate that, seeing that on the T12 to a question, right? So when I get to the property, I say, hey, I noticed in April or whatever month I said, I noticed in April that there was a huge increase in the water bill for that month. Did something happen around that time? And they'll say, oh yeah, here's what happened, blah blah blah, blah, right? Those are the kinds of things when I say you're looking at the T12 to tell a story, those are the things that you're looking for, right? And let's do another example from the T12, right? Let's say for the month, let's say in 1 month, you see that there is a huge increase in concessions, and concessions are discounts on the rent. or things like that, right? Or maybe your marketing budget was really, really high for one specific month. That's nothing crazy, but to me, it's something I want to ask. What were they spending the marketing on, and what were the results of that marketing? Did a lot of people come from that amount that they spent it on, and what did they spend it on specifically? Because if it worked well, I want to keep doing that. If it didn't work well, I want to stay away from that. I obviously that strategy didn't work for this area. Right? So that's what you're doing when you're looking at the T12 to figure out, okay, what questions do I need to be asking when I go and do this walkthrough? So I have a sheet of paper here that this is actually from Ione. Ione wrote this up before one of the walkthroughs, and I'll just read off some of the questions so that way you can kind of get an idea of this all came from the T12. Every single thing on here came from the T12. This is before we even got to the property. So I'm gonna go through some of these here. And unfortunately, I ripped the paper because I thought I wasn't going to need this. So it's like kind of shattered. I'll share a picture of it later. So the first question says, only the water income is being billed back. Utilities and expenses did not specify. Is there any gas, sewer, or electric that is being billed back? If so, how much monthly? And are these master metered or separate metered? Right? And there's a lot in that question. And that all came from the T12. So we saw on the T12 that on the income side, there's only a water reimbursement. There's no reimbursement for electricity or gas or sewer. So, and it didn't specify. It just said, here's the total amount. And that's just something I remember. So we wanted to find out, okay, this would make sense if, like for electric, for example, if the electric on the property is not master metered, it has an individual meter for each unit. That would make sense why we're not seeing that. It means that the tenant is responsible for hooking up their own electricity and paying their electricity bill each month. So it's just something we saw and we asked. No question is off limits. I said this last night on the Q&A. You should ask every single question that comes to your mind. You're about to buy $1 million plus property. You should ask every single thing you can think of. And if it's an uncomfortable question, you should probably ask it multiple times. And you want to do that multiple times because let's say you ask them and they're prepared for it, right? They're going to give you the answer that they prepared. Let's say you ask them again and they weren't ready to get that question again. So now they kind of fumbled a little bit. Okay. If they're telling the truth, it should be an easy answer and I should get the same answer or close to it every time. Right. But if it's something that maybe they're lying about, it's harder to tell a lie and the same lie multiple times. So those are just things to be aware of when you're asking these questions. Let's go on to the next one. It says, why is there a security patrol service? Is there a high crime rate? Can we omit this and have security cameras instead? So for this particular property, we had not seen it until we actually got there. So this was a very valid question. And the security, we found out when we got there, because this is another question we asked, how often does this security officer work? What are their hours and what days do they come in? Right. And is that necessary? And I can tell you it was definitely necessary. That area was sketchy. We did not even that because of how the area looked and literally that was the only reason we walked away from the property. We didn't want to do this one because it was just let me put it in perspective. When we got to the property, the first thing KJ said when we got in there, she said, you need to start bringing your gun to walkthroughs because I don't like it here. So let that put into perspective. So that was a question that we got. And it comes from, again, from experience. We've seen a lot of properties just have cameras. They don't have a security officer on site. They had cameras. And that was enough for them to satisfy their security measures, right? Some properties we've looked at have only fences around the property. This one had cameras, fences, and a security guard. We'll let that speak for itself. Jose says master meter or second part. It was master metered or separately metered. So for those of y'all that don't know, a master meter means that everything on the property, it has one meter to control it. Like for our house, for example, the way that they charge you for water and electricity, they have a meter that measures how much electricity is going in and out of the house, and same for water, how much water is going in and out of the house, so that they can charge you for it. So if it's master metered, that means there's only one meter for everything. Everything gets directed to that meter, and they have to then bill back and make sure that everyone's charged proportionally, which is a rub. If it's separately metered, that means they each have their own meter, and they can be done as a rub, or they just go and do it themselves. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Okay, question 3 says parking income. How many spots and how much? So this was a question that we saw on the income, and this was a very not good T12. It just showed the amount that they were making, the income. It just showed that. It didn't say, and it doesn't ever say how many spots there are and what the charges are. Typically, that would be something in the OM, but it's something we were curious about and wanted to know. Okay, they are making parking income right now. How many spots are there, and how many of those spots are being utilized for parking income? Meaning, is there covered parking? Is there reserved parking? Is it all free parking? Like, what is the scenario? And that's something we asked when we got there. The other one says no pet fees on the T12. Are they charging any? So on the T12, we noticed that there was no section that said pet fees in the other income. And lo and behold, when we got there, they are charging pet fees, and they were charging $25 a month and $300 non-refundable. So all of that was not even included in the T12, and we wouldn't have known that unless we asked when we got there. Okay. Next question, any storage? Is there any storage on the property? That's something that we've just seen in the past, that we've seen properties have storage. And it's similar to parking, right? You could charge for like a storage unit, right? I wouldn't charge a crazy excessive amount, maybe $15 to $35 depending on how big it is, but it's definitely another source of income. Laundry income, verify washer dryers and units, third-party service for laundry. So this is just saying there is a laundry income there. It was inconsistent, and we wanted to see, was that income from having a washateria on site, having the washer and dryer in a separate location, which was the case on this property. They had 2. Or are they charging per unit for the use of washer and dryers, like a rental? And the second part of that question said, was this a third-party service? So some properties that you come across, they outsource the laundry to it. They outsource laundry, so that way it's not something they have to worry about. Me personally, I don't like this idea because I want to have control over everything that we're doing. I want to be the person that's pulling the strings. I want to have control over the amount of money I'm able to make. So it's an option. People do it all the time. You can go and rent out the equipment, and then that's your equipment and you're responsible for collecting the income. That's what I would elect to do. Or you could put washer and dryer hookups in the units. And that's something that I would absolutely prefer to do. That's the best case scenario, right? So let's go on the next one. This is a very common, I ask this every single time, and I know Oscar asks this every single time we go walk a property. This is one of the first things that we want to ask is, how are they marketing the property? If they are at all. A lot of places, especially mom and pops, they say, oh, well, we just put the sign out front. So that's their only marketing. And for some places, they are 100% occupied. So that is a really good sign. If that's the only marketing they're doing and they're 100% occupied, that's a really good sign for us that this is a hot area, or their rents are way too low, right? So it tells us one or the other, and you have to use your best judgment based on what you're seeing, all the other context clues that are around you. Another reason we ask that question is kind of what I was touching on before, is if they're doing all these different things and it's not working, well, okay, I need to think of something else. Or maybe they have tried every single thing and their occupancy is still really bad, or they have not great tenants in the property. This tells us maybe this isn't a property that we want to pursue. If they're already having all these troubles trying to get it leased up and they're putting thousands of dollars into marketing, that's not a good sign for us. If they're already doing all these and they're doing it correctly, they should have some people in the property and they should be seeing a steady increase as long as they've been doing it. This is the other, so this, that question I just said, how are they marketing? And this one right here are the first two that I think of every property we go to. You should ask this to every single property. The second question is, what is your biggest maintenance issue? That is critical. You want to find that out. And that's a question you definitely want to ask to your property manager. Whoever the property manager is, that's who you're asking. Anything property specific, right? Anything that's the day-to-day scenarios, that goes to your property manager. Anything that's only on the T12, the property manager, if they're if they're a good one, they have seen it. If they're not more average, if they're an average property manager, they haven't seen the T12s. That's something for the owners and the accounting department. So you can learn a lot from this question, right? So I think a while back, I know a lot of you guys were watching this or watching us, and we were talking about a deal in East Texas with $1 million plumbing bill. Well, Oscar and Myron had walked that property first, and they had asked that question: "What is your biggest maintenance issue?" Right away, they said plumbing. They were honest with it. Plumbing was the biggest issue, but the broker that was there was kind of leading the tour, right? They were trying to show them the good stuff about the property and maybe not so much the bad stuff. They wanted to show all of the good things, right? So also keep that in mind. If maybe there's an area that they're trying to avoid, that's a question. Ask them, hey, what's over there? Can I see it? And if they're like, oh, no, you don't want to see it. Yes, yes, I do. I do want to see it. I want to see your worst units and your best units. I want to see everything. If I'm going to buy this, I want to see everything. And I see Jennifer is saying, is anyone taking notes? I'm not able to. This will be posted to our YouTube channel, the $1 Million Upside YouTube channel. This will be on there as soon as it's done recording. So maintenance. Ask the maintenance guys. That's such an important question. And it'll tell you where you need to focus on, especially if you have an honest property manager. And you'll be able to kind of tell. You'll be able to pick that up. Who's fluffing you? Who's a sorry property manager? Who's doing their job well? You'll be able to pick that up pretty quickly, especially once you do this a couple times. If you do 8 in a day, you'll figure it out by the second or third one. I promise. Okay, the next one, it says, is there any recent reno done? If yes, how much are they budgeting and how much a rent increase? That is a very important question. So you'll see this on the OM a lot. You'll see that on the OM, especially if it's a Class C value add project. They'll typically want to provide that information if they've already started on the renovation. Even if they haven't, they'll try and put in an estimated reno budget. You could use that as kind of your basis starting point when you're doing your underwriting, but it's even more critical to ask them so you can basically reaffirm what you've already been told. Remember, you're asking the same question multiple times. So you may already know what they're spending, but you want to ask them again to see if it differs from what you've already been told. Right. So that very, very, very important. Martha, I see a question here. Where do you get your rehab numbers from? Bids, or do you already have a good idea when you're analyzing? Right. So I kind of just went over that. A lot of times you'll see it in the OM what they're already doing. It's definitely a reasonable question to ask the broker if they know. Hey, do you know what they're budgeting for renovated units? And the second part of that is, how much of a rent increase are they getting from putting in X amount of dollars? Those are a very, very important question. You want to find that out, especially if this is a value add project. Very important to get that, because that's going to change your numbers. Because you could find in the OM it says one thing, but then when you get there, they say another. You want to go off of what they're telling you at the property, because property manager usually will be a little bit more honest with you, because they're probably they want to stay at that property more than likely. They want to make a good impression with the new buyer to be secured at their job, right? Because it does happen where it's a sorry property manager, and first thing you do is get rid of them and put a new one in, right? The property is not performing. Why is that? Well, the first person I'm going to look at is the property manager. So they're going to try and get on your good side. They're going to, you could get one or the other, right? They could either be fluffing you up, telling you a bunch of stuff, or they could be very truthful with you. And these are just things you have to learn how to read people and have these conversations. Okay, next one. When were major ticket items done? And this is talking about your roofs, your HVACs, and your plumbing, things like that. If you have cast iron plumbing and it's a old building, 1970s, 1960s, this is a sign that you should probably be aware that you're probably going to have some plumbing issues coming soon, and that's something you want to budget for. If you know the roofs are 20 years old and there's no issues yet, but they're 20 years old, that's something you should really, really keep in mind. Okay, I'm probably going to have to replace the roof here soon. I need to budget that into my underwriting. I have to put that into my operating reserves. That's something I need to make sure I'm prepared for. So you asked when these things were last done to kind of gauge when am I going to have to replace this? If it's really old, I'm probably going to replace it soon. Let me just budget for it now. If they just replaced it, that's probably a good sign that you don't have to do it. And also confirm if they say, yeah, oh, we replaced it at this time. Okay, did you replace all of it? Did you replace everything? Was it a patch job? Like for the roofing, for example, did they replace the entire roof on all of the buildings? Or did they just replace the roof on one building? Or was it just a patch job on a specific roof or a couple different spots? Did you just replace the shingles that weren't doing well? Right? When you get resistance on a question, dig harder, dig deeper and dig harder. Apps on every question you're asking. Like these are all very surface levels questions. I promise you, when we were there asking these things, if I got something I didn't like for example, on the security, I said the question, I dug more into it. I said, well, how do you feel about the area? You've been here for a while. Do you like it? Right? She's like, oh yeah, I love it. I was like, well, would you leave the property at night by yourself? Right? Okay, that tells me is she's saying she likes it is a bunch of fluff, but she's not secure in that area, right? Though you got to dig deeper on these questions. Every single question you ask, this is all surface level stuff. When you get any kind of resistance, dig harder, find out more, ask more questions, keep inquiring. That's your job. You're the detective of the property. If you're the one doing the walkthrough, you need to find out as much as you can, good and ugly, about the property. You really do. Virginia Drew says, do you get a professional inspection? Yes, we do during our due diligence. Right now, I'm specifically talking about your property walkthrough. Now, this could be done before or after your LOI. We like to do it before we submit a LOI. Absolutely, we do a walkthrough before we get into any contract. No matter what, we will not sign a contract if we have not walked the property. But typically, we like to do it before we even send an LOI. Now, if the numbers look really good on the immediate look, okay, we'll submit an LOI and see if we can get a walkthrough ASAP. But ideally, we want to do it before we submit an LOI because we can use that as a negotiation tactic. Like, hey, when we got there, we saw that there was mold in this room. 5 of the units were down. Like that's a lot of other stuff that we were not told about in the OM. The broker never told us these things. So you're on the lookout. You're Sherlock Holmes style in these properties. You got to be. Okay, the next one is the reason for this question is we saw a payroll and we saw the payroll was kind of high for the number of units. So we wanted to verify how many employees are on site. Also, not only how many employees, how many hours do they work each week? Are they full-time, part-time? What are they each getting paid? And do we need all of them? Right? Because I know we went to one property that had one property manager full-time, one part-time office person, and like 3 maintenance guys. We could have done it with one manager and one maintenance guy, right? So if we go there and figure all that out, now we know that their expense on payroll is pretty high, and we could probably drop that number a lot and save on our expenses. That's more, if you look at it this way, that's more added on top of your total, your NOI. So you're increasing the value of the property by reducing those expenses. Okay, next one. Sorry, I was reading a comment. This one says, what amenities do they have? Right. And that is to kind of figure out what's already on the property. What can we add? Right. Is there a little playground on the property? Is there a gazebo type area for you to go and sit and just enjoy outside? Is there grills, like little barbecue pits stationed around? Is there a dog park? Is there a pool? Is there a gym? All these different things you want to know, so you kind of get an idea of what's going on. And you want to go see these things to see what kind of condition they're in. So these are all different things you should go ask. And if they have it, can I see them? And if your property manager, your broker is not offering to show you these things right away, that's a sign. Maybe they're hiding something. Maybe there's something in this area that I should dig around a little bit more. Not always, right? Some people just don't think that way. But you need to be analytical about everything. You need to become an integrator when you go to these property walkthroughs. You've got to be. Okay, I see 100% occupied. Can we verify that all 119 units are functional and there is no down units? That's very important, because in the OMs, I know we've said a bunch of times, they always say, yeah, it's 100% occupied, right? But then when we get there, it's not actually true. They say it's 100%, but two of the units are down. Well, okay, now it's 100% because these units aren't working. Back to the East Texas one, they said it was 100% occupied actually, and 5 units were down because they got flooded and mold started growing, like black mold, and it was bad. It was bad. So, but they were saying it's 100% occupied. Yeah, it's 100% occupied based on what you've already got, right? Or what you have in place. That doesn't count. It's not the total amount of units. If you look at it this way, you're actually 90% occupied, and you're not making an attempt to fix the problem, right? Now I have to come and take over and then fix this problem, which you didn't tell me the truth. So it's all going back to, you just got to keep digging. And that's really all this is. I mean, we could talk about this all day, but really all you're doing is asking questions to find out more questions to ask. And you're finding the parts where, like I said, they're being a little bit resistant. So you need to go in there and dig deeper on those specific things. So every single one of those questions was for your property manager. Now I have a separate section here that specifically was for the broker. So this one said contract services. It should be zero. This is crazy, right? Meaning it shouldn't be zero. There should be some kind of contract services. Can we verify this? So what we were trying to figure out is, okay, on the T12, it says that there's no contract services being paid for. But we know that typically you need landscaping, pest control, different things like that. Anything that would require somebody with a license to come, unless they have in-house contractors with the property manager, which is typical, but at the same time not typical, right? It's kind of 50-50. It's very rare that I see zero contract services, and if I do, they are just not keeping very good track of it, or they're bundling it into something. So be on the lookout for those things. And it's just something that we wanted to ask and double check. Is this correct? If not, why is it going that way? Okay. This one says one manager for several properties to verify that there's no management fee and only payroll. So this one was very different, right? So this is not common. Typically, we'll see that there's a management fee on the property, which is very common, unless it's self-managed by a mom and pop type of deal. So on this, what this guy was doing is he had one manager, an in-house manager. So there was no management fee. It was all on his payroll. That manager had been with him for 10 plus years and managed multiple properties of this guy. And what he was doing was he was lumping all of his properties together into kind of one makeshift T12 to avoid taxes. He was a very shady guy, right? to say the least. So there was another reason we didn't want to go with this property, because we felt like there was going to be some skeletons in the closet once we dug a little bit deeper. But it was a question that we wanted to confirm. And yes, we probably knew what the answer probably was, but we have to make sure that that is the case. We don't want to assume anything. We want to really figure this out. Okay, maintenance man pay. Did they put it on repair and maintenance, or which line item? So that question is saying that we normally see, if it said that there was a maintenance man, but there was no pay or payroll section on the T12 for him. Excuse me, guys. So we were like, okay, where on the T12 does it show that this person is getting paid? Long story short is because that dude was all confused, jumbling his properties together to give us a fake T12. But we had to figure that out. If this person is an employee here, I want to see how much he's getting paid, when he's getting paid, and how long it's been. Like, is it consistent? If it's not consistent, why? All right, so those are a bunch of different questions that we've gotten. You need to now property. This is okay. Some of the line items that you want to go through, right? You want to make sure that you see all the renovated units, or all the versions of the renovated units. So what you'll see a lot is sometimes units are worse off than other units. So what they'll do is they'll have a classic renovated, they'll have maybe a refurbished and a remodeled, right? So there's three different renovated units, and they're all called something else. So the classic is basically we came in, repainted it. That's all we did. And this is general rule of thumb. Not every property is this specific. It's just kind of just what the norm is that we've seen. And then when they call it refurbished, usually just means that they came in, replaced some of the appliances, or maybe instead of doing that, they did some of the flooring, but they didn't do everything, right? Then you have your remodeled, which means they came in and took it to the studs and replaced everything. Everything has been changed. It's new flooring, new paint, new appliances. Maybe they knocked down a wall, whatever it is. And you want to ask these things. What are they doing in these renovations? How much are you spending on renovations? Like, what are you budgeting per unit? What is being done? What is the rent increase? And how long does it take from start to finish of the job? How long does it take to turn this unit? You really need to ask all these things and figure it out. Get very, very specific when it comes to the renovation, because that's a big part of your underwriting that can make or break a deal by how much you have to spend on your capex. Definitely something you need to be aware of and focus on. And they're going to want to show you the nice units. You know, I want to see what a unit looked like before you even touched it. I want to see one that's ugly. Because if you're telling me, let's say it's a 100-unit property, you're telling me you've renovated 20 of them. Okay, well, that means there's still 80 more that look ugly. I want to see what those look like. All right. And a lot of times they'll say, hey, we have, there's no open availabilities. There's tenants in there. I would ask again anyways, is there a tenant, that's maybe not home right now, or that is home, they'll allow us to come take a quick peek. We don't have to take pictures of this, but I do want to see what it looks like. Ask the question. You're about to buy a multi-million-dollar property. You have the right to ask these questions. Ask the question. And that kind of leads me to the next thing. You want to take photos of everything you're seeing. For one, it's really good content. You're branding yourself as a multifamily investor. You really need to put yourself out there, show people what you're doing. If you know how many people responded to just the video walkthroughs that we've done, we get so many comments on it, like, wow, oh, that's awesome, you guys are doing that. Wow, hey, I want to buy that property from you. You could find your next buyer just by showing a property you're walking to, for those of you guys that are wholesaling, right? For us, we told them, like, hey, this one's for us, we're not selling it, right? But that's absolutely a thing. And you want to take these pictures because you're going to see so many properties that you forget which one is which. They all get kind of jumbled together, right? That one time when the team, we all went to Houston and walked 8 properties in 2 days. I was so turned around by the end of that. I could not remember which property was which, what information went with what. You need to be taking photos and you need to be taking really good notes. If I were you, I would bring a notebook with you and write everything down that you hear, even if it seems almost insignificant at the time. You need to ask these things. Um, you want to, okay, one of the first things we do as well when we get to the property is we ask for a brochure of the different units that they have. I want to see all the floor plans and how much the base rent is for those floor plans. And then also ask, is there anything else included in the rent? Does this rent that you're showing me here, is that rent only, or does that include utilities as well? And if so, what is the pricing of that? Get very specific on those things. How many units are vacant, right? How many are vacant? You want to find that out. Is there a wait list? A lot of times, especially when they say, oh, it's 100% occupied, I would ask how many are vacant just to kind of throw them off. And they said, oh, none, it's 100% occupied. Okay, great, that's good. So is there a wait list? Is there people waiting to get into these units? Because usually when it is 100% occupied, you do have a lot of people with a wait list. You do have that. I see a question from Joelle. It says, do you guys attempt to talk to the tenants and neighbors? Do you guys ask them the living conditions, what is wrong, what they hate about it? It's kind of a touchy subject, but yes, I do. I do. Absolutely. I, in front of the broker and the property manager, maybe I don't do it as aggressive, but you can absolutely leave and come back and just walk the property. You're just looking, hey, I'm a new tenant. I'm trying to find out what's going on. There's nothing, you're not supposed to talk to them. Like, it's a free country. This is America. You can talk to whoever you want to talk to. But I wouldn't go in there and start like really grilling them about questions on the property. If it's just like in passing conversation, hey, do you like living here? That's a fairly reasonable question. I just like I said, you have the right to ask whatever question you want, but you also don't want to do it in a way that's going to piss off your broker. Because if the broker doesn't like you, they're just going to relay that information to the seller, and then the seller's not going to like you, right? So you just move with caution. My answer is yes, absolutely, I do. Just be wary of what you're saying and how you're saying it. And it's totally fine to ask them, what are the conditions here? Do you enjoy it? What would you change? There's nothing wrong with that. But I wouldn't do it in a way that makes the property manager look bad and the broker look bad. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Biggest maintenance issue, we already went over that. What does your marketing look like? Went over that. The hours of the property manager, similar to the security. Um, and real quick, I see Letitia says, or check the reviews. Absolutely. We always check the reviews of the property too. That will tell you a lot. Look, even Jose said it too. Will tell you a lot. Found out one was roach infested for over a year. So that's another good idea too. You could go to your reviews and get even more questions. Hey, I went on Google reviews and I saw this. Is that still a problem? Was that truly a problem? How did that happen? How was it resolved? These are things that you really want to get into. If there's something that people keep complaining about, definitely ask about that. Sorry, like, I'm all on a tangent. That's just how my brain works. I see something that we should talk about, so we should talk about it, right? Okay, back to where we're at. Hours for property manager. And this goes for all the employees on site. Like I said with the security guard already, what times do they work and how many days a week? You want to ask that for all of them to see, okay, where do we potentially need to make cutbacks, right? If there's something that their job is almost irrelevant, kind of how I was saying that they had 3 maintenance guys and really only one of them was necessary, that's a spot where you can make cutbacks and increase your overall bottom line. And this one says, is there a maintenance person on site or are they remote? So what that means is some people have on-site maintenance where they are paid employees, whether part-time or full-time. Sometimes they'll live on the site and have a unit that's at a discounted rate, an employee rate. That's very common. Other times they live remotely and they're just close by. So if there's a maintenance call or some issue, they just drive to the property and go fix it. right? So that's something you want to figure out, and just understand. Make sure you know the situation of the property. You want to be the all-knowing person of this property by the time you leave. I don't have any other questions prepared. Do you guys have any questions? If you do, write them in the comments and let me know. That way we can touch on it and go through it. And I'll keep coming up with more things that we look for on the property. Um, One thing that I do like to ask is if there's valet trash or anything like that. For those of you who don't know, valet trash is they get charged a monthly fee, and you want to ask how much that is. How much is the monthly fee? What are they charged? And it basically what it means is they could just leave their trash outside their door, and they will come and pick up all the trash and go put it away for them. Um, Maritza says, other than a notebook, do you bring anything else to the walkthrough? So I have this paper that was prepared. I only prepared this one, but I typically in my notebook I write down all the questions that I already have. Um, that way I don't forget anything. I have them there, and when I'm asking the questions, I can just keep going through and hitting every single question. Sometimes it gets kind of aggressive, right? Especially when Ione and I are together doing this. It's just question, 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 question. I am like one of the properties that we walked when we went to Houston all together. I felt bad for the property manager because we grilled her. We gave her like 30 questions, like round robin, rapid fire. But I was very impressed because she knew every single answer to all of them, all of them, and that was a good sign. If the property manager is like, oh, you know what, I don't know, or has to keep asking other people for the answer, that's a sign that maybe you don't want to hire that property manager and keep them on. Maritza says, does it upset the broker when you grill them? It's personality type, right? Some people don't like being questioned like that, but you have every right to ask every single question that you can. It's absolutely okay. I wouldn't worry about upsetting them as long as what you're asking is relevant to the property. It's a reasonable question. If they get upset, that's their problem, right? Again, you don't want to piss them off, but you also you need to pull up your big boy, big girl pants, whatever it is, whatever kind of pants you're wearing, I don't care, but you need to make sure that you hold your ground. You got to stand firm. This is you're playing with the top dogs. You are now a multifamily investor. You need to act like it and make sure that you hold firm and be assertive in everything that you're doing. I'm not saying to go and be an ass, but definitely be assertive. Hold your ground. Be confident in yourself. And when that doesn't when that doesn't help, bring a strap, like John says. There was a question up here from Virginia. Do you check to see if there are any lawsuits against the landlord? I personally have not done that, but that's probably a good idea. I have not ever done that. No. It might be something you might want to look into during your due diligence. It's a good idea. I've personally have never done it, but it's a good idea to do it. So I think it's kind of your own personal choice, right? Whatever you would like to do there. Look, there you go. Hector, you got Sophia interested in your Kansas City thing. If it's seller finance, we're interested too. Let us know. Reach out. Let's see. Okay. Any tips on making you stand out from other people viewing the property? I would say the biggest or best advice that I could give you is kind of what I was saying, is to just really be confident in yourself. Even if you're not confident, do what KJ does and just fake it. You should have heard her when when she is very confident. That's not what I'm saying. There was a moment when we had to go, and for the mentorship that we're in, we had to do went to a mastermind. We had to break up into groups, underwrite a property, present it, put together a pitch deck, do everything that you would do in your normal day to day when you're a multifamily investor. You had to do all of that within an hour and then pitch it. KJ and her group literally knew nothing about the property at all. It was a team full of visionaries. They had no integrators on that team, no one to really get the numbers and put together everything. But you know what they did have? They were all confident. And you know what? They ended up coming in second place out of a team, I think 4 teams or 5 teams. They came in second place. And solely because they were confident. And they surpassed us, and we put all the facts and had everything. I was a little annoyed because we put all that work in, and they just walked in. They pulled a Joseph and winged it. That's what they did, and I was very impressed. But all it was them being confident in their ability to relay the information. So that would be my tip: is come prepared. You know, get your T12 and everything. Look at it, have your questions, and then come in confident that you know what you're doing, even if you don't. Come in there, ask the questions, and really just hold your ground. Okay, what are some things we need to physically touch or are hidden gems usually when walking a property? A pretty good question, Joel. I would say you want to take a look at the leasing office. That's usually where you'll start. You'll go in there, talk to the property manager for a little bit, get that brochure I talked about. They'll kind of give you a little tour of that. And then they'll say, okay, what do you want to see? It's like, well, I want to see your units, whatever you've got available for us to see. I want to see it. I want to see as much as I can today. We also want to see all those amenities that they have. If there's laundry on site, I want to see the laundry. I want to see the pool area. I want to see your worst unit. I want to see any areas of problems. I also want to see the boiler room or hot water, whatever they've got, whatever system they've got. I want to just go see that, make sure it's clean, it doesn't look bad. I want to see the grounds of the property. Let's just walk everything. You want to see as much as you can. Okay, Martha Miners says, I just spoke with a friend who's a realtor who knows multifamily really well. He said, I suggest you offer a broker a higher commission because there are 100 people ahead of you for the same deal. Thoughts? Um, I'm not the one that necessarily talks to the brokers. I do sometimes, as I'm sure a lot of y'all saw pretty recently. I wouldn't worry too much about this. I think it kind of comes more what if you can provide the best offer. I think that's really what it comes down to. Yes, that could probably help to incentivize that broker to kind of play for your team, so to speak, to really push for you to be awarded the deal. Um, if it makes sense in your underwriting, by all means, by all means. For us though, we typically try and get the seller to pay the broker. We try to have the listing broker's fee come from the seller side. Now that doesn't always happen. I would say it's more like a 50-50 chance. And our brokers that work for us, we have a 0.5% agreement with that broker and he's killing it. So for us, it's like if I have this broker that's going above and beyond and working for 0.5%, why would I pay this broker much higher and they're doing nowhere near as much work? So my short answer is I would not. That's it's not what we would do. I know that in this market, with the buyer's market, we hold the prize. So I'm going to stay firm and be confident that we are the prize in this. They need us more than we need them. There's going to be a lot more deals. That's my advice. Again, it's an opinion. You're welcome to do absolutely anything you would like to do. Okay. Here's a good comment here from Jose. He says, check AC handler boxes. Many tenants don't change filters, backer units for flooding drainage, cause structural issues. Absolutely. It's very, very good advice, Jose. This is very true. For us in our agreements, we like to have quarterly filter changes done by us. But what it's really for is so that we can go and inspect the units. And that way we have a reason to come in and inspect every unit and make sure that they're being taken care of. It's definitely absolutely a good idea to go and check it. Any sign of damage or something not being taken care of, you need to ask more questions about that and find out what they're doing to fix it if they have done anything to fix it. How long has it been there? that all these different questions, right? We walked into one property, it had mold in it. I was like, okay, that's weird. How long has that mold been there? And the property manager was very quick. She was like, yes, we found that once this tenant left. We actually found once we found this, we looked in all the other units. We found it in one other unit, and they have both been taken care of. And this one is scheduled to get take care of in 2 days. Right. So she had answers ready to go. I felt confident that she was telling me the truth. So I was okay with that answer. Okay. I don't know specifically what you're talking about here. Maybe if you could elaborate in another comment. Okay. Yep. Toddy, fake it till you make it. Confidence is key. Absolutely true. Okay. Joel says he's worried about appearing young or inexperienced. Definitely confidence seems to fix this. What would you suggest? I would not worry about your age, man. I think people are getting younger and younger because this information is much more accessible than it used to be. I Age is just a number, man. You gotta be very confident. That I think confidence is going to get you further than anything else in this. Obviously, learn the knowledge, do it, but taking action and being confident in it, even if you're not, just being confident. Confidence is a skill. That's a skill you should work on. If you don't have good confidence, that's a skill you should absolutely work in. Go to networking meetups and just go walk up, make it a goal to go barge your, I don't know if Ben is in here, but you need to be like Ben and just barge into conversations. He did it with such expertise. And I know that he has very high confidence because he's able to go and do that. And I bet he did not have that before, but he got good at doing it because he got good at being confident. Confidence is a skill, guys. Just work on it, insert yourself into tough conversations. Okay. Wow. So you do have a buyer agent broker representing you. Not, we don't have an agreement with them. This is just a broker that KJ had reached out to, made a good relationship with, and we like working with this person. And they're constantly searching for other deals. They're calling other brokers for us. So we don't necessarily have to be doing all the legwork. They're calling other brokers for us and bringing in lots of deals. This one broker has 30 deals on our board right now, probably more than that. So yes and no, right? There's no exclusive agreement. We are working with multiple other brokers, but we like this broker so much that we want to work with them. We want to get them paid. We're going to make sure that we do a deal with them so they get paid because this is a good dude and I respect him, right? So it's the relationship came first and then the business came second, right? We built that relationship. KJ built it very well, and now we love this person. He's basically part of our team, and that's not the only broker that we do that with. We have a couple other, including Zach and Carrie. Those guys are awesome, and we're doing a deal with them soon. So stay tuned. I'm excited for that one. Okay. How do you guys make sure about stuff like hail damage, termites, land moving, foundation issues? Hail, I don't worry about it at all. That's what insurance is for. Termites, you just look, ask if there's any damage. These are just questions. You just ask them, hey, do you have any issues with hail, termites? Is there any foundation issues? You just ask them and then dig deeper on those questions. And if there's something there, well, that's something that would come up in the inspection, or you budget that as well in your CapEx. You assume that there's going to be a problem, and if there's not, better for you. Okay. Florida Multifamily Syndicators is saying that the question before about wouldn't an attorney do this, I assume that they would. I am not an attorney, so disclaimer. I would definitely confirm with them that that's something that they would do. I don't know about that. So I don't even want to speak on that just because I am unfamiliar with that. It's probably something I should go find out. I assume that they would do that as well as title. I assume that both the attorney and title would figure those things out before, because typically when there's a lawsuit, they put a lien against the property, and you can't sell properties with liens against them. Those have to be taken care of. That disclaimer. Christopher Crump says, and guys, I've only got 5 more minutes, so I'm gonna hop off here soon. What pushed you into multifamily, and what was some of your first steps? So we wanted to be in multifamily. That was our ultimate goal. And KJ, like the rock star she is, she's like, why don't we? What's stopping us? Let's just do it. So we said, hell yeah, it's a good idea. Let's just do it. So she reached out to Oscar, and lo and behold, it blossomed into what it is now. And we just took imperfect action. We got a group of us who knew nothing about what we were doing, and we just took imperfect action every day. And we just started going to rooms like this, reaching out to multiple people, asking questions, calling bunch of wholesalers in the beginning, and then realized we need to be calling brokers. So first steps, first figure out what your goal is, figure out what you want to do in multifamily, and then work backwards from there. If your goal is to own multifamily, I would bring somebody a deal. If you have no experience at all, but you have time, I would go source a deal, bring somebody a deal. And if you want to be in that deal, bring a deal that's in your backyard and to somebody, because for us, we are only looking at Texas unless we have a boots on the ground in that area within an hour or two of the property that's willing to go there every day. So those that's what I would do. I would start calling brokers in the area I was looking to buy in. Okay, let's see. What are some red flags during a walkthrough aside from what you have already mentioned? Um, if I ask to go and look at something and they give me a reason as to why not, I'm gonna push harder on that. It's a red flag to me. If I see like some flooding on the property, like Houston, for example, Houston floods all the time. If I see there's a bunch of like wet spots and it hasn't rained in a while, okay, that's a concern for me. Maybe their sewage, their piping isn't done very well. Um, let's see what else. We had one lady that the pool of the property was green, like dark green. And we asked, how long has it been there? And she said, oh, like 2 weeks. And we're like, okay, like you're such a liar. There's no way that was only 2 weeks. That is crazy. That pool was so green. And it just you'll become a human lie detector, and you'll start to pick up these signs. I suggest you start, reading books on, talking to people and, picking up those signs, things like that. That's absolutely something I would do, is to get really good at reading people. And I think that's going to help you a lot, because you want to become a human lie detector. And I would say, though, that's the biggest red flags for me, is just when I hear something that's maybe not consistent with what I'm seeing or what I've already been told. Okay. John Kim, he can be boots on the ground in Vegas. Okay. I think that's it, guys. I don't have anything else. I appreciate you all being here. I think this was a good session. I hope you guys got a lot of value. If you did, I would appreciate the share. Tag me in it, tag me and the team in it, and I'll share it back. I'd love to reciprocate the love. I love feeling the love, and I love giving the love. So let us know. Any other ideas that y'all want for some videos, like these little 1 hour YouTubes? Let us know, guys. We're absolutely willing to do it. We're coming up with different content. We have a bunch of other ideas, thanks to KJ and you guys. So keep them coming. Keep them coming, guys. We're making sure that we're trying to be as valuable as possible for y'all. So appreciate you all. Let's see if I can get this timing right on the outro. Thank you, guys, and have a good day.